top 10 are cursed items. We're going to start. It's a combination of two. It's the Australian rocks, the Ayers rock, or the Uluru. I think that's the Bushman word for it. I believe that's the.
I think
we have wild men in America. They have Bushmen.
It's like
same
primitive
thing.
name for it or whatever.
So tourists show up, and I'm putting the Ireland because the Blarney Stone. You have the Blarney Stone, and the Blarney Castle. So we have Ireland and the Blarney Stone and the Blarney Castle, and you have this rock formation that is very beautiful. It's these red rocks in Australia, the Ayr rocks. And tourists show up all the time, and they just think, hey, I know that all these people said don't fucking take shit, but I'm going to take a rock home.
Yeah.
Whatever. You don't think much of that, really, until you learn that from both sites, which are tourist attractions, essentially, there are packages sent back to both Blarney and to the Australian rock of people sending back whatever rock or chip of the castle they stole with a massive apology letter saying that their life has turned horrible ever since returning home with this piece of rock or land, that things have just been really bad for them. Divorce, deaths, car accidents, loss of money, essentially took it and lost everything.
It has to be pretty dramatic too for them to take a piece and then all of a sudden their life turns
so
horribly
bad,
dog shit, and then they're like, oh, it has to be this because that's the only thing that happened during that time.
Right. And there's even one story of a lady who bought a piece of the Blarney Castle at a garage sale or an estate sale, and that there was this priest that lived in her town, and he took a piece of it and he had it, and when he passed. Now, apparently this dude was a very old, miserable hermit, never had guests or people over. People didn't really see him or know him very much. They just knew that, from what everyone said, he was just a very horribly depressed, mean old man. And she thought the Blarney Stone that was at his auction was kind of cool. So she bought it, and then her entire life started turning miserable. She felt depressed. She felt down. She felt angry. And she believed that she ended up sending it back to Ireland, to the Blarney Castle. And she believed that the priest never realized that this was actually causing him all of his grief and pain. And that she picked it up instantly. Because she said as soon as she sent it back, she instantly started feeling better. So crazy stuff. Believe it or not, maybe it's all in their head, but there are hundreds and thousands of letters to each of these sites a year of tourists returning back the sacred pieces of stone that they have stolen. And that's our number 10. That lands us right there at number 10 on our list.
Yeah, number 9, there's a painting that's called The Hands Resist Him. It was offered up for sale on eBay. It was one of the first kind of not viral, but things on eBay that kind of came with a disclaimer, where they said this painting has supernatural abilities, it's haunted, whatever. A lot of people are like, that's bullshit. Well, that was in February of 2000. It was put up on eBay with claims that it was haunted, and somebody bought it. Somebody
of course.
owned it. Yeah.
Of course.
Somebody's like, I would like to have a haunted painting. That sounds great. And disturbing things started happening. So apparently the people who owned it had it in a room, and one of their children reported that during the night she would see the hands moving. And if you look up a picture of the painting, it's a painting of a child with a doll next to him. I think the doll has eyeless.
Right.
It's just kind of sitting there, and they're looking at the camera or the painter or whatever, and then behind him in a black window there's a bunch of these little hands.
Yeah.
And there's no owner of the hands, they're just disembodied. Well, anyway, the person who bought it said that at night they would see the hands moving around in the back of the painting. And she said after the hands moved around for a while, then she could hear a faint arguing between the doll and the boy in the painting. And then there were even claims that they would argue and then they would come out of the canvas. whether that's in the form of like, did they literally come out of the canvas, or was it like a hallucination? Where like the painting just has the power to make you hallucinate that that's happening, or I don't know. I think it was basically their kid that saw this stuff, but super creepy.
Yeah, and someone paid for that experience.
Yeah. Well, and the painting was also painted by an artist named Bill Stoneham in 1972. Both Bill and the owner of the art gallery who had commissioned that painting they passed away within a year of the show where it was originally like aired in the museum. So the art gallery owner said, "Why don't you paint this for me?" Bill said, "Terrific." Put it in the art gallery, and within a year they were both gone. Super creepy.
That's fucking horrific.
Yeah. So that's number 9.
Number 9, The Hands Resist Him. Number 8, we're going to move on to the Daybook box. The Daybook box.
I've never heard of this one, so I'll be interested to hear this.
So, the legend of the Daybook box comes in, essentially there was an old Jewish woman from the Holocaust. And essentially a Daybook in Jewish culture is a restless, vengeful, possessing spirit. Not of like a demon or a monster or a god angel. And it's of a person. Some evil, hate-filled, possessing person. And they call them Daybooks. If I could be butchering that. I apologize to the entire Jewish nation if I am. But she had what they call a Daybook box. It was this little wine box. It was like a little wine box. And by little, I mean like old standards. So, I mean, it was an alright size to him. And this old woman's granddaughter grew up always hearing, never, ever open the box. Do not open the box. Essentially, she believed that the spirit of a Daybook was trapped in this box through ritual and ceremony. They had captured it. It's like little ghost collector in Ghostbusters. It was inside of it. All so right. You don't push the button, you don't let them back out. Don't let them back out. So when she died, there was an estate sale, which is really odd how many times you hear like estate sale stories gone horribly wrong. And a man named Kevin Mannis purchased the Daybook box, and in talking to the granddaughter, had found stuff out about it, and he was like, "Hey, I'm not really worried about the money." He was a shop owner. He was fine. He wasn't like hurting. He's like, "If it means this much to your family, I'd like to give it back to you." And then the granddaughter's like, No, I'm good. Red flag number 1 right there. So he started suffering from horrible nightmares of like an old hag, and they're very similar to the similar nightmares to what the other owners of the Daybook box had. Obviously he opened it and there was little things in there. Nothing like, there was, I have it here. There was, I lied. I don't. There was 2 1920s pennies, a lock of brown and blonde hair, and a statue with Shalom written on it.
Dude, why was there hair in the box?
I don't know how to track Jewish spirits.
It's creepy when there's like parts of human beings, even if it's just like hair, like fingernails, or like weird shit like that.
I don't think hair is that odd because people used to. That was like a huge thing people would do.
Weird to me, like, oh god, somebody's hair.
Right, that used to be like a big thing though. Like
that's true. Like a lock of hair.
Right. So like I said, he started suffering horrible nightmares, and as being a great world's number 1 son, he decided, I can't give this back to the lady. She doesn't want it. No one's buying it. I'm going to give it to my mom as a present.
Yeah, logical thing to do.
So he gives it to his mom, and within, 24 hours of owning the box, she has a stroke and passes away. So like I said, it passed, from that point, it passed to a couple different owners as he was finally able to get rid of it. One of the last owners, other than just suffering the nightmares, suffered horrible skin condition. And essentially the theory and belief behind the Daybook box, or the Daybooks in general, is they weaken your psyche and physical stature. So, it starts mentally, nightmares, other things like that. And then obviously maybe the gentleman was weaker or had it longer who started to develop the physical skin condition side of it. But the whole thing is they want to break down the spirits to a point that they can possess the person. That's like the whole thing with the Daebook. So it eventually ended up with a museum director who, with the help of a rabbi, resealed it supposedly and buried it in an undisclosed location. At least that's how the story goes. No one really knows fully if that's what it is. Apparently, it's supposedly in a lead case in an ancient graveyard that no one will disturb. Like, it's just a very holy site, and that's where it's supposedly hidden. But that's, who knows?
The Daebook box.
And that's number 8 on our list, the Daebook box. So
what we got next?
Oh, and just for a fun film fact, the Sam Raimi's The Possession is roughly based on the Daebook box events. Okay. So next is the Annabelle doll.
The Annabelle
First
doll.
Creepy doll on the list, but not the last.
So you have to fill me in a little bit on this, but I got the basic story. So basically, it was a Raggedy Ann type of doll.
Yeah.
It was in 1970. A mother purchased it for her daughter. Daughter's name was Donna. She was a student in college, so she wasn't like a small kid, but she was a student in college, prepared to graduate with a nursing degree. And she basically took the doll, put it on her bed, didn't think about it for a few days. Then she started getting like a weird kind of feeling about the doll. And apparently she noticed that the doll would be in like different positions as she came back, kind of like relatively not noticeable, but just noticeable enough to where it wouldn't like go across the room or anything, but it would be like, cocked in like a certain position. And then things kind of escalated from there. So she would return home to find the doll like in a different room than where she had left it, apparently. So like it started kind of minor, like would find it leaned against the couch when she left it, like sitting on the bed or whatever. Then they started, I don't know if you heard about this. This is super creepy, where they started finding notes.
Yeah.
And like it was about a month into the experience, they started finding like little small messages written in pencil just around their house. Looked like the handwriting of a small child, so it wasn't like elaborate cursive
or a doll.
Like yeah, or a doll. Yeah, and the notes had "Help us" and "Help Lou" on it. They didn't have any paper in their house that matched the parchment that it was written on, and they have no idea where it came from. So essentially, the doll just moved on its own, wrote messages to them, like
somehow created or went out and bought some reams of paper.
Yeah, whenever they were at work, the doll was like, "All right, I'm going out to the paper store, get some parchment." Like that's my local place, and I believe now it's in a museum for like haunted items or paranormal.
Yeah, I know. I had heard that her boyfriend or roommate was attacked by the doll, apparently, which no one saw. But when the lady got home after the supposed attack, there was like droplets of blood all over the doll.
Dude, no. It's so creepy. I hate the dolls, dude.
Right.
They're so creepy.
Yeah, it's in like a decently famous little like, what do they call those places? Little off the road like tourist attraction-y places, but the people are decently well known in the paranormal community.
The Occult Museum, owned by Ed and Lorraine Warren.
And I believe they had something to do with the if you type in Ed and Lorraine Warren, I believe they had something to do with the Amityville Horror House.
Yeah, one of the autocorrect things come with Amityville. Amityville, yeah.
And I don't know if it was a hoax or what they did.
She's a psychic and had something to do
with it. Because they had her come and psychically examine the doll, and she's like, "Why don't you let us take this for safekeeping because there's something here."
Yeah.
So, Which Lorraine Warren literally looks like every evil old woman out of a movie. No offense to her, but like she has that, like, you know what I mean? Your baby's gonna burn in hell, like, you know, like Legion. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I know.
So
Yeah.
that's the Annabelle doll, which brings us down to number 6, the Bazzano vase. This one's an oldie, but a goodie.
Oldie but a goodie.
15th century.
Okay.
There was a wedding, and this silver vase was given to the bride as. Now, I've read conflicting things on this. Some people say she made the silver vase. Some said it was a gift to her.
Okay.
That time, who knows? You know, it's a long time ago. But then she was found brutally murdered on her wedding night, clutching that vase. The night of her wedding. So it was then passed down through her family, and every member of her family that took possession of it died shortly after owning it. And after it chopped up a bit of her family, it disappeared, and no one really knew what happened to it. And that brings us all the way up to 1988, where it showed up in an auction.
It just kind of like
just another
happened to show back up again.
And
I feel like this is like the Lord of the Rings type of situation where it like destroys whatever and then like goes in
well,
hiding.
apparently the rumor is that it like some of the beliefs behind it are kind of interesting because it's a vase with a lid. Most of the pictures don't ever show the lid, but apparently it has some sort of like, and as long as it's sealed, you're fine. But when you open it, apparently it supposedly acts as some sort of beacon that draws serial killers. So, because that's like one of the theories behind it. Obviously, you know, but a gentleman purchased it at auction, and without, you know, you can already guess what happened. He died. He died shortly after purchasing it. 3 more deaths followed. And there was even an incident where a gentleman threw the vase out the window of his house.
Is it like
and
probably someone of his family members was killed or something?
And hit a cop.
With the vase?
Yeah, like he caught the cop's car or the cop himself. And he went outside and the cop wrote him a ticket. And the guy was like apologized, stuff like that. The cop was like, it's fine, I'm just going to write you a ticket for blah, 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 blah. And he's like, here's your vase. And the guy's like, I'll go to jail. I don't want that thing back. So, and actually, I got my stories mixed up, and I apologize. The Daewoo box's location is currently unknown. The Bassano vase is the one that was buried in lead in an ancient cemetery. I got those two mixed up. Sorry, everyone.
The box is still out there somewhere, probably. But the vase is the one that's okay.
Yeah, well, I think they
should all be buried. To be honest,
they should all be completely destroyed.
Yeah.
So the Bono vase is buried somewhere. So if you wish to die or kill someone,
if you wish to die,
you can try to track it down. So that's the cursed Bazzano vase or Bazzano vase, and that marks off number 6 on our list. And I think number 5 is one of your personal creepers, right? Like,
it is.
Not necessarily the best cursed story, but
I like it. It's just creepy. It's just the Anguished Man.
The Anguished Man painting.
Number 5, the Anguished Man. Okay, so the picture. When I was doing research on this topic, I was looking at it and I was like, I genuinely got like a creepy, spine-chilling sensation just by looking at it. It's like something. It's pretty.
You'll see it on the screen, right? You see it? It's horrifying.
See that?
It's fucking horrifying.
So the story goes that in 2010, a guy in England by the name of Sean Robinson, his grandmother passed away. He inherited a few things along with a painting, which his grandmother called the Anguished Man. And she told him that she had it in storage in her attic for about 25 years. She didn't hang it up or display it anywhere because when she did, strange things started happening.
Plus, you see the painting. You saw it.
Yeah.
Why would you put that in your home?
Yeah, I know. Like, that looks like a good piece.
I'm going to hang this right by the door. Make sure everyone sees that the second they come in.
So she told him the story of basically the artist who nobody knows the person's name, or nobody's come forward with the name or knows where it came from. But she told Sean that the artist mixed the paint that he used in the painting with his own blood, and then committed suicide like immediately after he was done painting the picture. So she had it in her attic for 25 years. She said when she hung it up, she was always followed or always felt the presence of a shadowy figure in her home. And she said out of the corner of her eye, she would always see just like a shadowy figure she couldn't really make out.
That's Bill. Thought everyone had a Bill.
That's Bill.
You don't have you
No.
don't see that every.
No. I don't have a Bill. Dude, you gotta do something. But you gotta find that debut box person to seal Bill up inside something. So so Sean took the painting home, and like any logical human being, he was like, "I'm just gonna put this up in my house for a conversation piece."
Right.
Totally ignoring the warnings of his grandmother and stuff, because he was a skeptic. He was like, "Oh, she just telling me this weird story about this thing." So he hung it up, and on the wall, outside of the wall that he hung it on, he at night heard a faint crying noise, just like a sobbing. He and his wife chalked it up to like maybe a rabbit or like an animal outside the window or something, but it kept happening. Then he said that he saw like little smoke in his house, for the best way he could describe it, just like a faint mist in his house. And then eventually he started seeing that type of shadow figure that would just be there in the night when he woke up, just in the corner of his room, he said. Apparently he has put it in his basement, and then when he put it in his basement, everything immediately stopped. So like he put it down in the storage, he took it down, and everything stopped.
You know how many like horror films start off with some creepy item in a basement?
Yeah. But so there were apparently all those phenomenon were linked to that picture, and when he took it down, they all stopped. So just imagine being laying in bed, hearing some crying noise outside, seeing a mist in your house, and a shadowy figure around. No, I'm good.
Well, and the second I took the painting down to the basement, and then it all stopped.
Yeah.
Like week 2, week 3, where I'm like, okay, we're good. That's when you destroy the painting.
Yeah.
And don't ever let anyone ever touch it, or you know what I mean. Like
he took footage of it and put it up on YouTube. So like there is footage of this, just footage of the painting, like video camera footage, and apparently there's some phenomena that happens, like visual disturbances and stuff around it. But the reason I didn't go into that too heavily is because I have no way of like verifying or
right. Well, it's a YouTube video.
Yeah,
like, why would you trust anything about any of this stuff from a YouTube video?
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
jeez. So that's what was that, number 5? Yeah.
So that moves us down to the Crying Boy painting.
Which is another painting. Paintings are creepy in general.
And so this was like a mass-produced piece in Britain. There's several different pictures of it. Like when you type it in and you try to look at it, I haven't clearly determined if it was one painting of a single crying boy and like this is the painting, or if like there was like a series of paintings and there's like different boys all crying, because there's all these different ones that kind of meet the cry, like that sound like it.
Yeah.
So, so there is one particular one that most people utilize, which is the one I'm like, well, I guess we'll go with this one. And in 1985, these paintings were mass-produced and sold throughout Britain. They did pretty well. I mean, I guess for a painting of a crying boy, I don't understand what things people
I don't
buy.
understand why people would want these.
But yeah, people bought them anyway. I don't really get it either. It doesn't make any sense.
Like, not something that I would put in my house.
No, not at all. Not at all. So firefighters, responding to different fires, started noticing that the paintings of the crying boy were found in them. And because of that, they noticed as well that there would be burned down houses, like to the ground, and these paintings would be perfectly fine.
So everything else will be burned to the ground. But then all of a sudden, oh look, there's this painting that like survived.
It was such a big thing that firefighters refused to have them in their homes.
That's insane.
Right.
Fireproof painting, basically, because it's haunted as shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
God. And didn't you say that like people they had like a bonfire where like bring all your paintings?
Well, yeah. So essentially, there are news articles from the time where the paper put out information on where to go and that they were going to have controlled fires to destroy these paintings because that's how
in the
crazy
newspaper.
and massive it was. Right, firefighters wouldn't own them in their house. There was a whole thing. And apparently, it was like a Spanish painter and an orphan and a painting that is of an orphan boy, but there's not a whole lot known beyond that. It's
And this is also in 1985, right?
yeah.
So this is not like a superstition thing from like the 1300s or something.
No. This is like super relevant. Like I was born the year after this event.
Yeah.
So it's pretty crazy. It's just, apparently like you have to know about the curse of the painting or realize it, which I don't really understand. That's what they said a lot, but like I don't get how it started because no one would know that it was cursed.
Yeah.
But
what you saying? You have to know about the curse and then
for it to actually
still hang it up anyways,
and then it will burn down your house. But like it started with some fire somewhere, and I know there was a firefighter who was like, that's bullshit. That's fucking bullshit.
Well, even if it is bullshit, just don't hang it up, bro. Like, just leave it alone.
No, he put one in his house and his kitchen caught fire.
Yeah.
So
really? Oh, shocking to me.
It's so shocking. So that would be our number 4, the Crying Boy painting.
What's number 3?
The Hope Diamond.
This is the long one. All right, so basically, this is the backstory is not really that crazy, but like the stuff that it does is kind of just.
I think we all know what the Hope Diamond is.
Yeah, Hope Diamond weighs about 40. It's 45.52 carats. It's about the size of a walnut. It was with the French royal family till it was stolen, 1792 during the French Revolution. And these are French names, so I'm gonna probably butcher these. But
no, go for it, man.
Basically, the guy who stole it, his name is Jean-Baptiste Tavernier, I believe.
That sounds good enough.
Stories he came down with a raging fever soon after he stole it. He died.
Diamond AIDS.
Yes, and his body was possibly ravaged by wolves after that. Nobody really knows, but that's the first victim. King Louis XIV bought the stone from Tavernier before he died. That's when it was known as the Blue Diamond of the Crown, or the French Blue. He died of gangrene, and all of his children died in childhood except for one. Third, he worked for Louis XIV. He wore the diamond. His name is Nicolas Fouquet. He wore the diamond for a special occasion. After wearing the diamond, shortly after, fell out of the favor with the king, and he was banished from France. He was sentenced to life imprisonment after his sentence was changed, but he spent 15 years in jail. Shortly after wearing the diamond.
Just wore it.
Yeah.
Just took it out for a spin. Okay.
So, Marie Antoinette, Louis XVI, both died after inheriting the gem. There was a lady called Marie Louise, Princess of Lamballe. She's a 6th victim. She was a member of Marie Antoinette's court and was really close to her. She was killed by a mob. Apparently, she was hit with a hammer, decapitated, disemboweled, stripped down, like horrific death.
So just the way we all want to go.
Yeah.
In our sleep.
Her head was impaled on a pike,
Jesus.
and it was carried to Marie Antoinette's prison window. Number 7, Wilhelm Fals was a Dutch jeweler. He recut the diamond once more. His son murdered him, and then his son killed himself.
Probably for the diamond. not realizing the diamond would then take him.
Yeah. Number 8, Simon Monterides. I'm sure I butchered that. He owned the diamond. He drove his car off a cliff, killed himself, his wife, and his child. Number 9.
Shit is escalating.
I know. Evelyn Walsh McLean. She was a super rich heiress. She was, described as living kind of like a charmed life. She was kind of spoiled, or, some people would say. She wore the diamond, and then she would even affix the jewel to her dog's collar, let him just walk around her apartment.
Hold on. Isn't that thing worth
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Basically, after wearing it and letting her dog wear it, first her mother-in-law died. Her son died at the age of 9. Her husband left her for someone else and later died in a mental hospital. And her daughter died of a drug overdose at 25. Then she ended up going into huge debts because she had to sell her newspaper, The Washington Post. Diamond was then sold to a man named Harry Winston. 9 years later, he mailed the gem to the Smithsonian.
Good Samaritan.
Yeah.
Did he die?
Well, he did not. He got rid of it. He paid $2.44 in postage to have the mailman deliver the diamond to the Smithsonian.
The mailman died?
Number 10, James Todd, the mailman who
Oh.
delivered the diamond.
Dude's just doing his
Hold on.
job.
He accidentally had his leg crushed in a truck accident shortly after, and then he suffered a head injury in a separate accident, and his house burned down. But he didn't die. He didn't die.
And his house burned down. Just hopping on the.
Maybe he had a crying boy picture in his house.
That
But
dude-
that's insane, dude.
And now everyone's safe.
Yeah, because
I know. I remember reading
It's in a
some.
museum now, so it's
I didn't read all of those, but I remember I think there's been a couple accidents early on when people would handle the diamond for transport and things like that.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone was killed
Yeah.
after it went to the museum, but dude, that's so.
Well, like some of those deaths that are described are like fucking horrific. Like it's not just like, oh, this guy had a heart attack, That's it though. There's like 10 people that I think killed.
Jesus. So, if you ever find, before we go into number 2 and number 1, which I think are the two best,
Yeah.
I'll do a little brief honorable mention
Okay.
for all you viewers out there, because there's probably a lot of people like, where is James Dean's car, little bastard?
Oh yeah.
And we chose not to add it to the list, not because it doesn't deserve to be here and possibly even in the top 1 or 2 slots, but in our introduction episode, we do the full Little Bastard story. So we figured this way we can cover more content.
If you go back to /Strange episode 1,
The introduction.
we cover a bunch of topics that we'll do in the future, but we basically do the entirety of that story.
Yeah, we did the entirety of the story. So we figured we'd get you more content this way.
Yeah.
But we do recognize how great that story is as far as cursed items go.
And that's a super similar story to the Hope Diamond, where it's just basically replace the diamond with James Dean's car. Everybody who handles it or comes in contact with it dies. Or has a horrific accident.
So you build a garage, you put James, the little bastard, in it, if you can find it.
Yep.
You hang the anguished man, the hands resist,
In the
and
garage.
and the crying boy.
Then you put the Hope Diamond
In
as
the
like a
middle,
hood
in the
ornament.
case.
A hood ornament on the car.
And then... So that moves us to number 2. I'm gonna just cut this off. We're gonna come back to the death garage in a minute.
Okay.
Because the last 2 are perfect additions.
Alright.
So number 2 is Robert the Doll. And you think, man, that sounds swell. No.
No.
This doll, Robert, is the living embodiment that sparked the idea and creation behind Child's Play and Chucky.
So just immediately you're just like, yeah, this must be pretty bad.
So there's a gentleman by the name of Robert Eugene Otto. not Robert the Doll. The doll's name's not Robert Eugene Otto. But the gentleman was Robert Eugene Otto. And as a baby or an infant, he had a Bahamian nanny from the Bahamas.
Okay.
And she was pregnant herself at the same time that Robert's... actually, I'm going to get on the habit of this right now for this story. Eugene, when he was little, we're going to go by his middle name. Otherwise, you have Robert the Doll, Robert the person, and it gets a little weird.
Okay.
So Eugene, his mother was pregnant with Eugene, and the nanny that they brought in for when she gave birth got pregnant. And so there's some horrible stories involving, I guess there's rumors that when the dad went to get her from the Bahamas, essentially to go get some workers, that he slept with her and that she was pregnant with his child, and the mom was not too happy about it. There's no 100% evidence there on that, but and that she locked her in this outhouse that they had on the property for the entire 9 months that she was pregnant.
Ugh.
Just feeding her bread and a little bit of water. And when she gave birth, her baby, the nanny's baby, did not make it. It's because she was exceptionally malnutrition.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that. She's locked in a shed.
Right. So she raises Eugene as her own, and because she had just lost a child and they were born, and Eugene was born around the same time of her child, she was so close to Eugene that she breastfed him herself, as she was able to because of how close the pregnancies were.
Well, I don't think that's really that uncommon back then. I don't think for nannies to do that stuff, is it? Maybe it is.
I don't know.
Maybe it is.
Well, I don't think you'd ever have that timeline because,
how?
Women can't just breastfeed anytime.
Yeah.
So,
sure.
I don't know how often nannies, so it was just a unique situation. We'll put it that. And she loved Eugene like her own child. And the mom caught the nanny and a couple other workers essentially performing a very ritualistic, almost voodoo-ish. It's, from my understanding, in the Bahamas, there's it was some sort of voodoo Christian mix that is formed there.
Okay.
And they were performing some ritual, and it involved the decapitation of a live chicken. And the mom got so freaked out by it that she sent the nanny back. And the nanny didn't want to go back because she loved Eugene as her own child. And so she really didn't have a choice in the matter, so she ends up building this doll. And she gives this doll to him. And the rumor essentially is that she used voodoo possibly to put the spirit of her dead boy into the doll. So Eugene now has this doll, and he will not separate with it. He walks up and down the streets of his town with it, talking to it, having a good old time. Just being a little kid.
Yeah.
And when something bad happens, or something breaks, or in the house and the mom gets mad at him, and she'd do like any mom. Robert Eugene Otto, and the kid would freak out. Like, no. That's Robert, pointing to the doll. I'm Eugene. So the kid gives the doll his own name, and then refuses to go by his name anymore, and calls himself Eugene.
Yeah. It's weird. Who does that?
Yeah, it's still a little kid, no big deal. So fast forward to 19-year-old Eugene, still walking up and down the streets of his town with the doll, talking to it constantly.
To 19.
19 years old.
Okay.
So his family ends up packing up and moving to France for a while. And the mom stashes Robert, the doll, in the attic in a chest, and they leave. Eugene starts to become normal and socially interactive with other people other than this doll. Ends up meeting a girl, they get married, and the parents, as a wedding gift, give him the house back in Florida. When they start moving in, he's up in the attic and he opens the chest and he finds Robert again. And now he's a grown married man, walking up and down the streets with a doll, talking to it.
So he did exactly what, when he found Robert, he resumed what he would used to do and just.
Yep. He they had a little, what is it called? Like a little apex. You have the house and then there's like that rounded, almost tower part of it.
Yeah.
And it's like a little attic, but it's like almost like a normal room attic.
Yeah.
That's where Robert stayed, and that was Robert's room. He ends up building scale furniture, chairs, beds for Robert, all in this room. And that's Robert's room. That's where Robert gets to stay now. So, the wife is a little weirded out by this, obviously. I think anyone would.
Yeah.
She overhears Eugene and Robert arguing and hearing Eugene begging for Robert not to kill him. Remember now that Robert's the doll.
Yeah.
So Eugene's begging for his life from a doll.
Yeah.
And
Which would explain why he sets up little furniture for him and stuff. It's almost like he's like held hostage by the doll. Basically, the doll's like, take me with you when you go out on the street, build me a room.
Right. Something bizarre. Well, Robert ends up being found dead in the little apex with Eugene, or Eugene ends up being dead
Yeah.
in the little attic with Robert supposedly on top of him with his little hands around his neck. So his wife gets out of there.
Yeah.
She leases out the house, and essentially, as part of the leasing contract for the house, you get the house, you pay me money, don't mess with the attic, let Robert be up in the attic by himself. Don't mess with Robert, Robert won't mess with you. And someone was like, that's fine. There's nothing odd or weird about this arrangement. And the owners were fine with it until they woke up one night and Robert was standing in their bedroom with a small kitchen knife.
The doll had a knife?
Yes. So, like the shadow man in the corner of the room, now it's a doll with a little knife.
Alright.
So they go, fuck this shit, and they give it to a local museum. Because Robert Eugene was an artist, and he had, his family been part of that community, and it's kind of like a creepy thing, like the neighbors and stuff like that. Because in the little apex was like a little tower, and it had windows, and people could see up there, and kids would gather outside and be like, oh, did you see Robert move? And everyone, like, this doll was like part of the community.
Yeah.
Probably fueling whatever voodoo was behind it.
Yeah.
If you believe in that kind of stuff. And so they had it displayed, and the first night it was displayed, they came back in the morning, and it looked like someone essentially had kind of ransacked the place in anger, and Robert was sitting clear across on the other side of the museum, just sitting somewhere else, just hanging out.
So creepy.
So they end up putting him in a locked-down glass case where he sits to this day.
I think Robert is worse than Chucky, to be honest with you.
In Key West, Florida. He doesn't just straight murder as many people, but...
Yeah, but, it's more predictable. Chucky's more predictable. At least you know Chucky's going to murder you at the closest opportunity. But Robert will just chill with you for a year.
Year? You mean from, childhood to, 30? So you think everyone's safe now, but... There are signs up in the museum that say, please make sure to ask Robert your permission to take his picture. And just like the Aussie Rocks and the Blarney Stones, there are tourists who send back apology letters to Robert in the droves of hundreds and thousands a year, apologizing for not asking for permission.
Because apparently their lives have turned
bad.
Horrific.
So he's become just an antenna for shitting all over your life if he needs to.
Yeah.
So...
That's terrifying. Yeah. I don't like that at all. I'm going to lose sleep over that.
Dude, what would you do if you just went home tonight and Robert the Doll's just sitting in a chair in your house? You burned the house down, right?
Yeah.
You, chain the doll to the ground and you burn the house down.
Or I would at least, soak the doll himself in gas and burn him.
Which brings us, shockingly, to our number one story.
Numero uno.
And I think we both decided to put it number one solely because of the death count.
Yeah.
It's pretty high.
Yeah.
Supposedly. So yeah, number one.
Okay.
Hit me with it.
Number one is the Busby Chair of Death. Named after a Thomas Busby. 1702 is the year that he was convicted for the murder of his father-in-law. His name is Daniel Audi, who Thomas apparently strangled after an argument about Thomas's wife.
I had heard daughter, but it's fine. I don't.
It was the victim's daughter, apparently Thomas's wife.
Oh,
But it was the guy who strangled's daughter.
okay. See, I always misread that story. Then never mind. Okay, cool. Hit me with
So he's convicted of murder. So on his way to the gallows, 1702, he asked like, "Hey, can I stop by my favorite pub to get
that. Like a final meal.
yeah, a final meal?" So he stops by the pub, sits down in his chair, eats his final meal. Upon getting out of his chair, he apparently put a curse on it, claiming that anyone who sat on it would be haunted and then soon die after sitting in it. Remained in the pub for centuries. This is 1702 when this happened. Kind of became like a thing that people would dare each other to do, to sit in the chair. And basically everybody who did that, bad things happened to them. So like during World War II, there was a nearby air base, and airmen would come there for lunch and dinner, and they would sit in the chair, and it'd become a hot seat for them, and they would dare each other to do it. People from the community started realizing that after the war was over, the people that sat in that chair would never come back from war. That they would basically, just not come back. 1967, 2 Royal Air Force pilots sat in the chair while driving home from the pub. They crashed into a tree. They died. A couple years later, 2 bricklayers decided to try it. They dared each other to do it. That afternoon, the one who sat in it fell to his death. Another instance includes a roofer who sat in it. He died after a roof that he was working on collapsed. A woman who was cleaning the pub apparently didn't even mean to sit in it. She stumbled onto it while she was mopping, and then she was later killed by a brain tumor shortly thereafter. Eventually, the pub owner kind of was like, this is enough. This is getting crazy. This is no longer a coincidence. So I moved it to the basement, hoping that nobody would sit in it. But one day, a delivery man was in the basement, sat in it just to take a rest. Didn't know anything about it, just thought, oh, there's a chair, I'll sit and rest here for a second. 1 hour later, crashed his truck, died. After that, the pub owner was like, all right, obviously I can't have this chair anywhere in my pub at all. People will sit in it, they'll die. So he asked a local museum to take it. The museum did take it, but they hung the chair 5 feet from the ground on a wall. So no one could ever sit in it again.
Oh.
It's impossible to sit in. So the chair is still there. It's also said that the people that sat in the chair prior to their death had haunting experiences, including extreme itching, paranoia, hearing things and having confusion, all kinds of just creepy shit, and then they would just die.
What if I remember correctly? The death count is estimated somewhere between like 30 and 60.
I don't know. It's high though.
Like if I remember correctly, it's like 30 or 60 people for the death count on the.
I'll have to look that up real quick.
Yeah, and that's our number one, and that was kind of what was bringing me to our death garage.
Yeah,
that we were building.
Yeah, basically taking all these items. And
if we put Robert in the chair, will the chair take care of Robert? Or do you come back later and the chair's just in a bunch of pieces with Robert standing over it, like no?
Yeah, it's like the immovable object, unstoppable force, which would I don't know. I can't find a death.
That's
count.
fine.
But it's pretty
exceptionally high.
Like everyone who ever sat in it apparently died.
That's so crazy. So crazy. So that's our list. That's our top 10 curse items that we found really interesting. Let us know if there's any that we missed or that you think should have been on this list instead of. We started off with some lighter ones of people just having bad times to death,
Yeah.
and death.
Yeah, some of them are creepy. Some of them are just literally everyone who touches it dies. You know?
Man, that's so crazy. So hit that like or and subscribe button for us. Check out our other shows. We got / and / bracket, as well as some other new things coming before too long. And this has been a purely audio episode
Yeah.
for you guys, just images. Let us know if you like that or not, or if you prefer seeing our lovely smiling faces for them.
Yeah, and then next week we'll have video back up. But we just decided, we do just audio with images.
Right. Well, yeah, we'll have this released with an audio short video as well. I think it's what we'll probably end up doing.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's all, guys. Stay safe. Make sure to
Don't sit in any random chairs. Don't fuck with dolls. Don't fuck with paintings.
Essentially, it comes down to this. If someone tells you something's cursed, don't go, yeah, I'm fine.
Believe it.
What's the worst that's going to happen? One way or another. It's like, you don't do anything, nothing bad happens, or you do.
Yeah, I was going to say, what's the benefit?
Right.
Just leave it alone.
Look how awesome I am. I sat in the chair and didn't
Yeah.
die. Yeah, until you die.
Yeah.
So,
All right.
thank you guys. Have a wonderful night. Night.